Professions High School. Well, sure enough, they didn't have a gym. They did not have a single athletic field. In fact, the closest green space to this high school, which was in a hallway of a junior high, was Pelham Parkway, the median street. So that was our original playing space. They didn't have a team. Talking about rugby, talking about teams, talking about sports professions, high school. Like I said, this is pathetic. This is absolutely pathetic. We need to have a team. We need to do something, and of course, it's going to be rugby. So Arnold was one of the first kids. He's one of the founding members of the New York Rugby Club U19 program. Came in as a freshman to Lakers class.
I'm going to interject at this point. Arnold was a hellion. He was one of the worst kids I've ever had to teach. He would run around the classroom. He would just do all sorts of horrible things, throw things, and just get into trouble. One day, he was outside getting in trouble, and he ran into my classroom and hid behind me so he wouldn't get caught by the cops or something. But this kid was horrible. Okay, that's Arnold at the beginning.
But to me, he was more of a mischief maker. He was like a little elf with pointy ears, who'd go and make trouble here and there, but had a good soul to him. And he confessed to me in a car ride down to Pier 40 just a couple of years ago that this whole issue was his brother was the head of the gang of the Bloods that lived on the south side of Shefflin Avenue. And Shefflin Avenue is the largest projects in the Bronx. And he lives in them, and he lives with his grandma.
And many other relatives.
And a bunch of people. And this whole projects is mostly Bloods gang. But South Side has problem with North Side, and he used to be friends with everybody, but now he won't even cross the street to get a haircut at his old guy because it's dangerous territory. His brother was the leader. He saw his brother get shot and killed, and that sucks. But it's real life.
This is why she's telling us. No, I cry worse.
But Arnold is a guy who has been able to survive really rough conditions in his life and been challenged a little bit and he's seen what opportunity can be brought to him and he's seen what opportunity can be taken away really quickly. And so he, at this critical moment in time, was part of New York Rugby Club. And we, big club big umbrella brought rugby into his life and said, you know what, this is a sport and you're good at it. You're fast. He had natural speed, this kid. Natural speed and just a natural will to compete. He was good when he wanted it.
Arnold, when we would hold practices and we would do Henny Mullers, do you guys know Henny Mullers? Arnold, as the fastest person, Arnold came in last. Every time. Routinely. And so we had to teach him, hey, yo, dude, you should be first. So we started holding practices where, we run them until Arnold comes in first. And that's where this kid starts. And then, he takes to the game. He does very, very well. He makes the Met New York select side, I believe. And he also, improbably, against every single freaking odd I don't know, gets into Mead's alma mater and Fontaine's alma mater. Anybody else? Of Penn State. And it was largely in thanks to Fontaine spending time with his grandmother and going to church that he was able to actually, I'm not kidding, get
grandmother to sign the FAFSA form and Rachel Hughes for orchestrating the FAFSA form with grandma.
Under which major?
Agriculture, science,
getting to Penn State.
and Laker and I actually driving him into Manhattan and physically putting him on a bus
in Chinatown,
a big plastic bag full of his stuff because he didn't have luggage. Putting him on the bus, literally physically buying his bus fare and saying, Penn State, you're in, and you're actually going to go there.
And as an aside to that, Rosie McGowan and her mom, bought his books for like many semesters, right? So, you know, this is Arnold, and his big goal was a couple of things. He just wanted to make the Penn State team, right? So he makes it. And then he's like, well, I want to be a PE teacher. I'm like, Arnold, sweetheart, let me tell you, you're really good in sciences. I bet you could be a doctor, you know? And, you know, not that there's anything wrong with teaching, God knows, but it's just... So, Arnold is talking to Annie about he wants to be a doctor, or, you know, or a physical therapist, or he's looking into medicine. And he was one of the 4 boys that we as a club sent to South Africa, and he has now decided he wants to go to the Olympics, and he's decided that he's playing behind a guy who's really good at Penn State, so he knows his best road to get there is to go to South Africa again, by hook or by crook, and learn and come back, and he's going to challenge this guy next year for his spot. You know, so that's Arnold, and that's why we're all like, yay, Arnold for the rookies here.
And yes, Arnold is not just a kid who's like, thank you,
Right.
you know, I'm athletically gifted, and you've given me everything. No. He's a guy who is actually a for the club guy. He knows and feels what that means. And rookies, you've heard this cheer for the club, and you've always said it this season. But Arnold really, to me, embodies what that means because he's a give back guy. He's a guy who, even though he's barely out of our program, has already said, you know what, I really would like to work with the young kids who are coming through. I'd really like to help coach the girls. I'd really like to come out and go to play Rugby USA today and coach a team and give back to the sport. And to me, that's like, big heart.
So that's Arnold.
That's great.